Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layout. Today I pulled out this sketch support sketch from Scrapbook Generation and I'm going to change it up just a little bit. I pulled out the Doodlebug Berry Sweet collection, and this was one of those layouts that I included in my justification, but I knew right away that I wanted to document these photos from this year. Picking strawberries is something that we do quite often. It's available in the spring. Normally, we don't have a lot of time to be able to do it because it is such a short season. But whenever Fancy Farms opens up the U Pick weekends, we are definitely there. I knew that I wanted to have a ton of strawberries on this layout, and I am going to incorporate some of the strawberries from the collection, but I didn't want to use all of them on one layout. So what I decided to do was to cut out a ton of strawberries with my silhouette. I have this one strawberry die cut that I've used on multiple different layouts. It actually has a cluster of 3 strawberries, but you can pull out the top strawberry to be an individual strawberry. So I cut out several of the triple strawberries, but then I also cut out a ton more of the single strawberries. These little strawberries have little dots in them, which was the bane of my existence for this layout. I had to poke through all of those holes. I cut them out using Doodlebug Petite Prints in the pink and the red. I also used the Petite Prints in the green for the stems. And as you can see here, I poked through all the holes. I wanted the black to show through as if it was strawberry seeds. I'm going to use some liquid adhesive to adhere all of these pieces down, and I made the mistake of not putting these in the same order. When I put them on the mat, my thought was that I will squeeze them all together so that I didn't waste paper, but that caused a huge headache later. I did zoom in the video here so that you guys can see me poking through the black paper as well. And I am going to use the silhouette mat to help me out because there's so many tiny intricate pieces. It was just easier to have the base black piece of paper stuck down on the mat. So once I got all of the strawberries assembled, I'm then going to continue to poke some more holes and making sure that they are all poked through. But after I do all of that, I'm going to add some liquid glass to the top of it. This is very similar to Glossy Accent. Liquid glass is no longer available, but I'm trying to get rid of this bottle. So I've been using it a lot more lately to get it used up because it is a little bit older. But it is the exact same thing as Glossy Accent. So I spent quite a bit of time putting some liquid glass on all of those strawberries, and then I had to wait overnight to let them dry. This one was definitely a labor of love, but when it comes to strawberries, they are my favorite fruit, and picking strawberries is just a completely different experience. The taste of these strawberries are nowhere near the taste that you're ever going to get in the store. So for the left-hand side of the layout, I decided that I would use this white paper that had a bunch of polka dots on it. And then for the background piece, it calls for a piece on both the left and right. And I was trying to save paper, so I cut down this gingham paper for the right-hand side, and then I was able to get a smaller piece on the left-hand side. So it looks like that teal paper goes across both sides of the layout. I decided that for my photo collage on the left-hand side of the layout, I was going to include 6 photos. I used some 3x4 photos as well as some 3x3 photos. I knew that I wanted to have this kind of offset of the photos, and I wasn't sure which ones I wanted to cut down, so I did pull out these templates. I got them from scrapbook.com. I'll link them below. I really like them. It feels like it's one of those purchases that you don't really need until you have it, and then it's like a game changer. It makes it so easy to decide which photo you want to cut down. So I pulled out my 3x3, decided on that photo, and cut it down. I am going to mat these 6 photos on the background paper because that background paper is going to be covered up with the polka dotted paper, so I try not to waste any paper. I have a ton of white scraps, and I prefer not to have some more. So whenever I can, I try to use the background paper. I'm lining these photos up using my T-square ruler, and I struggle with lining up grids every single time. I did have to cut down the top photo to make sure that the grid looked good. When I took these photos, I wanted to make sure that I had some detail shots. So I have a close-up of the strawberries. I also have a photo kind of further away so that you can see how the strawberries are planted. This is something that is very familiar to us because we pick strawberries quite a bit, but I thought it would be cool if somebody hasn't seen that before, how you can see these rows of strawberries and how the strawberries are grown here locally. I did use my layering guides to cut out the grid. I have both sets. The smaller set is no longer available, but you can pick up the larger set, and I have been using that one quite a bit more lately, mainly to cut out some of the larger photo grids that I've been working with. I struggled a little bit with trying to make sure that I could cover up that hole. I cut it in the center, and I probably should have cut it over to the left or right a little bit. But then when I put the paper down, I realized that I was going to be covering up a large portion of this polka dotted paper. You guys know that I'm going to try to save the paper any way that I can. So I did decide to pull out my T-square ruler, measure out exactly how much I could possibly cut off, and then I'm going to trim off the center, which I come up with a pretty large piece of the polka dotted paper. Anytime that I can save some of the good basics from a collection, I'm going to do that. And I know that it's a little bit more work to get the paper down, to cut it out, but it also prevents bulkage in my albums. I like lots of layers on my layouts, and sometimes that means lots of bulk in my albums, and this kind of prevents it by cutting these holes. So I did have to finagle a little bit with the background piece to make sure that I covered up both of the holes, but I think that I was able to make it work. Of course, adding some washi tape to the back to help put it in the album. Once I got my mat down, I realized that I was putting white paper on white polka dotted paper. So I pulled out this paper pack. I got this from Michael's a while ago. I really like that they have multiple shades of the same color. And so I tried to find a piece that was very similar to the Doodlebug Petite prints. And I knew I was just going to have a really small border around the white paper just to give it a little bit of an offset against that polka dotted paper. And I think that it really helps that grid pop. Now for the right-hand side of the layout, I'm going to be using 2 of my own Canva templates. These are 4x6 templates, and you can purchase them on Etsy. They are linked below. It helps you get so many photos on your layout. These 2 particular 4x6 photos, I was able to get 16 photos. These photos are the individual shots of us holding up our strawberries. I don't feel like I need huge photos of that. There's also the photos of the kids picking the strawberries. I love the fact that I was able to get so many photos. So I was able to get a total of 22 photos on this double page layout. And I feel like with the grid from the 4x6 photos as well as the grid on the left-hand side with the larger photos, there's a mix between them that it doesn't look crowded. I still have a ton of room for embellishments as well. So I got all of the background paper down, and then I realized that I probably needed to also mat the photo grid on the right-hand side. I did mat them on some white cardstock and then again on the red cardstock just to have them stand out a little bit more against that teal background paper. So I'm going to get my mat down on the left-hand side of the layout. And like I said, these are photos of us picking strawberries, my mom, my sister, obviously Eli went with me, my niece. This was the first time that she was able to truly understand what we were doing, and she definitely enjoyed the strawberry picking. I just realized that I did not include the QR code for this layout. I have this really cute video of me asking Nevaeh to share her strawberries with me as she was taking a bite of it, and she's just slowly walking away from me, very obvious, like, you're not taking my strawberry. So I'll have to print that QR code out and upload that video. I do have a tutorial on how to do that, and I will link it below for you guys if you'd like to check that out. But it will be in my detailed shots at the end. After I got the base down on this layout, I decided that I was going to do a little bit of stitching. I'm going to do 2 rows of stitching on the top and bottom of this teal paper. This is the first time that I've done the 2 rows, and I really like the way that it looks. It just gives it a little bit of a different texture and look than just the single rows. What I decided to do was I used my ruler to poke out the first set of holes, but then for the second set, I did draw some pencil lines to make sure that I had the row straight. I also decided that I was going to add some stitching over on the left-hand side of the layout on that teal paper as well, so it looks like the stitching goes continuous across both sides of the layout. There isn't a lot that's on the left-hand side, but just that extra little touch of detail I think makes a big difference. I also decided that I was going to add some of the red stitching down the polka dotted paper, and I was going to add it on both sides. Once I got all of the holes poked for the right-hand side of the left-hand side of the layout, I realized that my holes are not straight. So I decided I would just go ahead and add a border strip. I pulled out this border punch that has the holes already poked in it. This is probably one of my favorite border punches. It just gives it a little bit of an extra texture. So I added the border strip down to cover up the holes that I had already made that were not straight, and then poked the holes through the border punch so that I could add the stitching to that piece as well. I pulled out some red thread as well as some teal thread, and I didn't have the exact match of the teal, but I decided that I would go just a little bit darker, and I really like the way that this looks. I did my stitching offline, but then I slowed the video down here so that you can see all of that amazing detail that the stitching provides for this layout. I really like the double line on this teal paper. Like I said, I haven't done that before, but I think that it just adds so much to this layout. I have really been enjoying Doodlebug lately and using just what's in their collection. I love the fact that you can make so many great titles with just simply what's in the collection. So my title is going to be Sweet Memories, and I'm going to add that over on the right-hand side. For the left-hand side, I did find this sticker that has the strawberries that are in the container. Those containers are exactly the containers that are seen when we purchase flats of strawberries, which we do at the Strawberry Festival. So I thought it was a little nod to that as well. And I also decided that I would include one over on the right-hand side. I did first start out with the red strawberries, but then I found one that had pink strawberries in it. So I decided that I would add that to the right so that I would have both red and pink strawberries from the collection. I wanted to add something underneath the circle over on the left because I felt like it needed a shelf. Later on, I realized that I used Sweet Memories because I was more looking for the color. I wanted a pink to offset the red that was there. But then as I was doing the journaling later on, I was like, oh, I used Sweet Memories twice, but it's okay. I think I will probably be the only person that notices that. I did put the word sweet flat to the layout, and then I used 1mm foam adhesive strips from scrapbook.com to add the word memories. It just gives it a little bit of lift right next to that flat word sweet. And then this is where I'm going to start to add the strawberries. I'm going to add so many strawberries to this layout. It turns out so amazing. I love the way that this turned out. I kind of took inspiration from Allison with her sketch support. If you go and check out her sketch support, I will link it below. She did a layout that was similar to this with popcorn, and that's what gave me the idea to use all of these strawberries. So I did change my layout up just a little bit, but I do want to give a nod to her since she did give me that inspiration to add the strawberries. Like I said, I'm going to be using the strawberries that I cut out with my silhouette, along with the strawberries that come in the collection. I definitely needed to have those cute little faces on the strawberries for some of these strawberries in this layout, but I didn't want to use everything. I probably would have used every piece of strawberry from this collection on this layout had I not used the silhouette. So I really like that I was able to incorporate that. Later on, after I had completed the layout, after I had done everything, I was like, I probably could have found the strawberries from this collection, which you can purchase the die cuts that you can use in the silhouette for this collection. I just didn't think about it. I had already had that strawberry, so that was in my mind that I could use that. But I will link it below if you guys want to create something similar to this and use the actual strawberries from this collection and have those really cute faces on your strawberries as well. So I'm going to add the strawberries to the top and bottom of this teal paper. I'm also going to add just a couple of strawberries over on the left-hand side to kind of tie all of this together so that it looks like the strawberries are continuous onto both pages. As I'm getting those strawberries down, just let me tell you a little bit more about my Canva templates. I do sell them on Etsy, and I really am enjoying using the Canva templates. I feel like it gives me the opportunity to add so many more photos. Once you purchase the file, you will get a PDF that has the template link for Canva. You can use the free version of Canva to create these photo collages. You can use both your phone as well as a computer. I prefer to use the computer just because I'm able to manipulate it a little bit more, but I've used my phone as well, and I have no issues with using the phone. It is as simple as uploading your photos directly into Canva and then dragging them and dropping them into the Canva template. I do have a tutorial on how to use that. I also have 2 free versions of Canva templates. So if you'd like to play around with those Canva templates before purchasing them, I will link that below as well. It is all contained in the video where I describe how to use the Canva templates. So for all these strawberry pieces, I did feel like I needed to add something else. So I was also adding the strawberries that were in the containers. I also found some cute birds from the collection and added those around. I found a little mouse that's holding a little pink flower, which has nothing to do with strawberries, but he was just really cute and he fit perfectly right on top of that little sweet memories tag over on the left. I did use Nicole's journaling technique. I will link her video below if you'd like to get the details on how to use her Google Sheet or Google Doc. I prefer the Google Sheets because it just makes it super simple. And then once I print them out, I use the Hero Arts die. It is often out of stock, but it seems like scrapbook.com is getting better with bringing them in. So I will link that below for you guys if you'd like to check out that die so that you can also print out your journaling strips. Also, I do use the font Shadows into the Light for my journaling. So my journaling says, we headed out to fancy farms in Plant City where we could spend time together and bring home fresh picked strawberries. Christina brought her kids, my mom joined in, and Eli, my sister, and Nevaeh came along too. It was one of those simple joys of small town life to pick the sweetest strawberries around. I then started to look through some of the smaller embellishments like the icons and the puffy stickers, as well as the little enamel shapes, and just adding some final touches to the clusters. So I added several hearts as well as these really tiny dots that were on the puffy sticker, and I thought it was just a perfect touch to each one of the strawberry pieces. I also pulled in a couple of flowers as well as some birds. And then finally, I dated my layout. I'm trying to be better about that. I used my roller date stamp to add the date. These photos were taken in February of this year. So also pretty excited to be getting a layout completed the same year that it happened, which doesn't ever happen for me. All right, that is it for this video. Here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. This Doodlebug collection still is available, so I will link it below for you guys if you'd like to check it out. It is such a sweet collection if you have any type of strawberry themed photos that you need to complete. All right, if you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.